From allegedly hiring a hitman to take out your competitor's knees with a baseball bat, to the never-ending cycles of doping from a certain said country.
Cough, Russian cough.
The world of figure skating is as messy as it gets. Think the show Euphoria, but on steroids. No puns intended. And today, we will be tier ranking decades upon decades of the juiciest figure skating controversies and scandals to date. Hello, friends of the internet. If you're new here, hi, hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Kathy, and I'm a 26-year-old competitive figure skater living and training in New York City. If you want more real-time athlete updates and for more figure skating videos, you can also find me on Instagram and TikTok. As a figure skater myself, I can tell you guys all one thing, and that is our world is messy as heck. There's actually so much more beneath the surface of the perfect smiles and the glittery costumes. There's actually a crap ton of politics and some really dark stuff in our world. We will be tier ranking every single figure skating controversy I know of, so hopefully this is pretty comprehensive. Disclaimer for today's video, because today's video involves real people and real athletes, some deceased and some not, but regardless, please keep the comment sections down below respectful. Healthy discussion is always welcome, but please be mindful of any negativity or harm that you may be putting out into the world. Additionally, for many of the cases, I will be using the word allegedly because your girl kind of doesn't want to get sued. With that said, I combed the depths of r/figure skating again on Reddit and just my own brain of every single controversy or scandal in figure skating that I could possibly think of. But if I miss any that you love talking about or know of and want to share, feel free to leave it in the comment section down below, because if you're a figure skating fan, you are for sure opinionated. Let's review our tiers for today. We have S tier. This literally goes down in history. Like, nobody's ever gonna forget this happened. We got A tier. Ooh, this is spicy, but a complete hot mess. B, kind of crazy, kind of wild. C, this literally just sucks and is sad. D, literally why this is so dumb. This did not need to be a controversy. All right, let's jump right in, and we will be tackling this chronologically. So let's do a little rewind back to 1902 to start. So the first big controversy to ever hit the figure skating world happened at the 1902 World Championships, where Madge Sayers was the very first women to try to compete at a world championship. Let me tell you, my girl here, Madge, was a baddie with a capital B. Contrary to modern day today, where everyone actually thinks the opposite, that figure skating is a sport just for girls or for women, back then, shocker, figure skating was actually solely a sport made for men. In the rulebooks back then, there was no official saying that there needed to be a gender requirement, so begrudgingly, they let her enter, and she literally came in second place behind Ulrich Salchow, and yes, that is the same guy the Salchow jump is named after. Officials later banned female athletes because they said their skirts were too long and they couldn't see the footwork properly, which is the stupidest reason of all time. So Queen was just like, why don't I wear a shorter skirt? And she did. And then she was able to compete. And that's how women's figure skating started. Go off, Queen. I'm gonna have to put this in S tier. She did kind of make history. I don't know if there will be women's skating if this girl didn't just be like, let me cook. Next controversy we have is around another skating queen in the 1920s to 1940s, and that was Sonja Hennings and her strange ties to politics. Sonja Henning was one of the most interesting characters in figure skating because not only was she a figure skater, like an Olympic figure skater, but she was also a Hollywood film star. For context, she gives massive Marilyn Monroe-esque vibes. She's won countless national titles and Olympic titles, but got into hot waters due to her connections with Adolf Hitler and other high-ranking Nazi officials in World War II. During her professional skating career, she toured a lot around Germany, and that's kind of how she got acquainted with a lot of the high elites in Germany, of course, which includes Adolf Hitler. But things really hit the fan for her in 1936 at the Olympics, where she was spotted greeting Adolf Hitler with the Nazi salute, which was obviously severely condemned by her home country, Norway, for obvious reasons, such as this man is the leader of a freaking genocide. Beyond that, netizens debate and claim that her connections to Hitler were purely superficial. The girl was just an opportunist that took whatever chance she had to get ahead and push forward her career. For better or worse, she knew how to play the game. You know what they say, don't hate the player, hate the game. That ambition in her is probably also what got her to become a major film star when she eventually moved to the States and became a huge figure in Hollywood. She kind of lived a crazy ass life, if I'm not gonna lie. Next one we have is the rise because of the Katarina rule that happened at the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics. German skater Katarina Witt, and if you don't know her, she's kind of a queen, kind of a legend, kind of an icon. Me personally, I thought she brought slay every time she stepped on ice. And of course, a male coach was like, your costume is too provocative. For context, it looked like this, and he was like, you're just trying to win over the judges with sex appeal. Personal opinion, this is so stupid. Why can't you just let the girl wear what she wants? In her defense, the costume that she wore matched what she was skating to. This incident is what caused the ISU, or the International Skating Union, to adopt a new dress code that all female skaters needed to wear skirts that covered their hip region. If you watch figure skating today, you actually don't see just plain leotards the same way you see in women's gymnastics. Over the course of the years, the ISU has relaxed the rule a bit, but still there's like a modesty cause that all costumes should be of good taste and whatever. But I would put this in D. I just don't understand why this was even a controversy. Like, this is just kind of dumb. Next one also happened at the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics, and that is the Battle of the Bryan. This one's not much of a scandal, but rather a heated rivalry. So this rivalry was between Canadian Brian Orser, who also ended up being the famous Yuzuru Hanyu's coach, versus American Brian Boitano. This was an extra juicy battle for the media because the dudes had the same name. Orser won the gold medal in the previous World Championships. If he gets the gold, it will be the first time that a Canadian man ever wins a gold at the Olympics in figure skating. Spoiler, Boitano actually comes in first, beating Orser by just a very narrow margin, leaving Orser only have ever captured Olympic silvers. And I'm gonna put this in B tier just because it's kind of more of a rivalry than it is a scandal. Great for media marketing though. Next one we have also happened at the 1988 Calgary Winter Olympics, and this made me think and realize that there's a bunch of ish that went down at this Olympics. So the other big battle that the media was after was the Battle of the Carmens, and that was between Katarina Witt, so the same girl I talked about when we were talking about the whole costume controversy thing, and American figure skater Debbie Thomas. If you watch my recent tier ranking every single figure skating song or music piece, you can find out for yourself how me and my friend Rachel felt about Carmen being such a warhorse, so I'll leave you to watch that in your own free time. Link in the description down below. But back then, Carmen was so popular, and the fact that two top medal contending skaters were skating to the same thing, it was just so juicy for the media. So Katarina Witt ended up winning the gold and Debbie Thomas the bronze. I am not gonna lie, Witt's Carmen program kind of lives in my head rent free, and I'm like multiple generations down the line, so that definitely meant she killed it to some degree. So with that, I'll put this one in A tier. I think it was kind of spicy. All right, the one everyone was waiting for, the 1994 scandal between Tonya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. Even non-skaters know about this, and that is how you know something is so freaking controversial that it expands beyond the bubble of figure skating. Hollywood even made a movie about the whole controversy called I, Tonya, which I discussed in my tier ranking figure skating movies and TV shows video. High level recap, 1994 was an Olympic year. Usually the Olympic team selection will be done at the US Championship. So in early 1994, Nancy Kerrigan was practicing on a rink, and then she went into a locker room and she got physically assaulted by some random guy with a baseball bat who took the bat to her knees, inciting this famous video of her understandably screaming this. Why? I don't know, some hard black stick. Something really hard. Upon further investigation, it turns out this hitman was linked to a guy named Jeff, and Jeff happens to be the then husband of another high-level competitive US skater at that time, Tonya Harding. And for context, and to add to the lore, she was the first American female skater to land a triple axel. Harding ended up being banned from the sport for a lifetime, and she pleaded guilty to conspiracy to hinder prosecution. But till this day, I don't think she actually ever confessed or admitted that she had any links or ties to the attack itself. This Jeff guy ended up being sentenced to prison for 2 years. I have no idea what he's doing now. And honestly, I think this made such a splash in the media due to how different these two skaters were. And I think that's the nuance that a lot of the larger public did not grasp. Nancy Kerrigan was literally the epitome of your all-American ice princess aesthetic. She was thin, she was beautiful, she was sparkly, she came from a well-off family, she was well-educated, and Tonya Harding was far off from the Ice Princess aesthetic. She often had this rugged aesthetic, may or may not have smoked a lot of cigarettes, was built a little bit more athletically, and was also born into a low-income family and unfortunately an abusive family. This one for sure shook up the figure skating world and the entire world. I would have to put this in S tier. This will definitely live on in skating history. Next one, also in 1994, we have a case of bad sportsmanship between Nancy Kerrigan and Oksana Bayol. For context, the Nancy we're talking about here is the same Nancy Kerrigan that was in the Tonya and Nancy case. Fortunately, Nancy ended up being okay. Her knee healed in time for the Olympics, and she was in gold medal contention, but she came in second place. First place was taken by Oksana Bayol, who was a Ukrainian figure skater who was only 16 years old at that time. The controversy arose around Nancy Kerrigan when the cameras caught her kind of talking poorly about her competitor Oksana backstage, showing clear signs of impatience and just talking poorly about this young girl. For context, after Bayol won the gold, she bursted into tears. Bayol has lost her mother recently that year, which meant she was actually an orphan going into the Olympics, and I think she was just quite overwhelmed with emotions at this moment, so she couldn't really stop crying, so that delayed like the medal ceremony a bit, and Nancy was just sitting there like basically saying like, why is she crying again? Let me tell you, she gave the definition of what we call today a bombastic side-eye. That was definitely a controversy that lost Nancy a couple of points with the American public. One of the things I hate the most is bad sportsmanship. I just simply find it so sad. It's not even like a controversy, it's just sad. The beauty of sports is people coming together from all over the world to challenge what we can do with our bodies physically and mentally, and when stuff like this happens, it just kind of ruins sports for you, you know? So C tier it is. Next thing we have is Surya Bonali's backflip in the 1998 Olympics. If you don't skate, you may think backflip, you know, what's the big deal? Figure skater do dangerous things all the freaking time, such as jumping and rotating 3 times in the air and landing on one foot on a blade that's like 1/8 of an inch thin. But fun fact, until actually recently last year in 2024, the backflip was actually an illegal move in figure skating. So Bonali was a skater that represented France, and going into the free skate, she was at 6th place. She had a feeling anyways that she was out of medal contention. She decided to put in her infamous backflip, knowing that deductions would come from it because it was obviously illegal at that time. But honestly, she was such a badass. She was the first skater to ever land a backflip on 1 foot. That's freaking crazy. I am honestly low-key annoyed about how this very difficult move actually set her back that much in terms of points, and online netizens have also debated whether or not race was a factor that went into her deduction, because although there is a deduction, some believe that they deducted her more than what she deserved because of racism. What's new? So I would put this in D tier. This is just so stupid. Why was there such a big deduction? Then we have another scandal at the 1998 Nagano Winter Olympics, and it was actually a judging scandal between a Canadian judge and a Ukrainian judge. Canadian judge John Sent, I believe is how you say it, had for months been suspecting that there is corruption in judging, which is not new news to us. She was told that she needed proof. So because of that, she secretly recorded a conversation with another Ukrainian judge named Yuri Balkov, where they discussed how they would place the ice dance teams before they even competed. Balkov faced a 1-year ban, but shortly thereafter, Sent herself was actually subject to a 6-month ban because of allegedly favoring a Canadian pair team. She claimed the suspension was retaliation against her reporting the other guy, and they were turning against her because she was shedding light on the corruption and just politics behind figure skating judging. I would put this in B tier, kind of crazy, kind of wild, but maybe I'm just so used to the politics and corruption within judging that I'm just like, not surprised. Next one we have is another kind of heated rivalry rather than a controversy, and that was in the 1990s to the 2000s, and that was Plushenko versus Yagudin, and they were both male figure skaters for Russia. This was Brian Boitano versus Brian Orser, but like 2,000 times more toxic and less PC. They trained under the same coach, I believe, and they basically hated each other's guts. Both men are grown adults now, but neither of whom actually act like grown men, in my personal opinion. They've both, over the last couple of years, faced multiple controversies, whether it's allegedly being openly homophobic or allegedly being abusive. I would put this in B, kind of crazy, kind of wild. What's new? Next one is another groundbreaking one, and it happened in the 2002 Salt Lake City Winter Olympics, and that is when one of the biggest figure skating judging scandals to ever happen dropped. This was actually so famous that some people even dubbed it like Skategate. This involved Canadian pair team Jamie Salé and David Peltier, and going into the Olympics they were the favorite to win gold. They ended up delivering a flawless routine in competition, only to have the gold be awarded to a Russian pair team, even though the Russian pair team had mistakes. Since then, the judging system for skating has changed drastically to try to make it a little bit more objective, but back then it was even more subjective. This major controversy all just kind of exploded when French judge Marie-Hen Legun, I need to say this name right, I literally minored in French, I did not waste that much tuition money to speak shitty French. Let's just call her Marie. Allegedly, she let it slip that the French president at that time told her that she needed to judge in favor of the Russian pair. There's a lot of like controversy around this because she said it and then she went back on her word and was like, oh, that never happened. All allegedly. Evidence actually did end up arising, which ended up both teams being awarded the gold medal, so both the Canadians and the Russians. So the judges involved were suspended for 3 years, and this is such a big story that people actually made documentaries about it. So if you watched my tier ranking figure skating TV shows and movies video, I talked about a documentary named Meddling that deep dives into this whole case if you're interested in it. Because let me tell you, it is fascinating. This one I do think I have to put in S tier just because it is so groundbreaking. Hi, sorry, brief pause. I got really cold, so I decided to put on a sweater. Anyways, we continue with more tea. In 2010, we got a case of cultural insensitivity, and honestly, you can just call it blatant racism. Russian ice dance team Oksana Domina and Maxim Shabalin performed a dance inspired by Aboriginal culture. But literally, it did the culture actually negative justice, which obviously sparked backlash from Aboriginal activists and the community. It was cited to be inauthentic, exploitative, and literally just not representative of their actual culture. Like, the music was off, the costumes were off, and honestly just god awful. Like, when I looked up this, I actually never heard of this before, so when I looked up their program, I was like, if I were the coach, I would not let my skaters go on ice looking like that. It's absolutely nuts. Face paint they wore, like everything about this was just like a big no-no. Don't be racist. If you're actually trying to bring light to other art forms inspired by other cultures, actually do research and try to do that culture justice. Because I promise you, we'll probably make the program better too. We're getting close to modern day with 2014, where we have a U.S. team selection controversy, which is the debate between Ashley Wagner and Mirai Nagasu. At the 2014 U.S. National Championships, Mirai took home bronze, while Ashley came in 4th place. However, for the Olympic team selection, they still decided to pick Ashley over Mirai. This became a controversy because apparently there has only been 4 or whatnot cases of this happening where a skater actually places lower at the national competition and gets sent in favor of the 3rd place person. When that decision was questioned, they cited that Wagner had higher global rankings and more consistency, while Nagasu was not as consistent over the years. This also sparked additional controversy as netizens debated whether race once again was factored into this decision, because Mirai Nagasu was of Asian American descent and Ashley Wagner, well, is Caucasian American. So the decision was never changed or overturned or anything like that. But when the next cycle came around for the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, Mirai Nagasu was in fact selected for the US Olympic team and actually went on to be the first US woman to ever land a triple axel in international competition, which is pretty damn sick. So I'm gonna have to stick to this one and be kind of crazy, kind of wild. Wasn't the most outrageous, crazy, juicy thing, but also, you know, had valid reasons to be a controversy. Next one also involves the 2014 Sochi Winter Olympics, and this was also just a huge, like the world was upset at this controversy. And if you know what I'm talking about. And that is between Korean figure skater Yoona Kim and Russian figure skater Avlina Snotnikova. So Korean skater Yoona Kim was absolutely a huge talent in figure skating and won the gold medal at the last Winter Olympics in the 2010 Vancouver one. So she was slotted as a favorite to win the gold again. Would have been a huge record to be one of the first females in a long time to be able to capture 2 back-to-back gold medals. So when the time of the Olympic comes, Yoona Kim delivers 2 beautiful skates. However, she was passed over for the gold in favor of Russian skater Avlina Snotnikova. There was so much controversy around the validity of the scoring. Kim's team actually put in an inquiry to see if they could change the score and have the judges recheck, but unfortunately that did not change the results at all. Netizens all speculated that after reviewing footage and tape of Snotnikova's skate, many people called out that one of her elements, the triple Lutz, which infamously takes off on a outside edge, did not look like it was a outside edge, which in that case would give her a deduction. And trust me, as a skater,
been there, done that. That deduction is not pretty or fun.
But in her case, the judges did not give that skater that deduction. Netizens and fans and even professionals from all over the world were just so angered by the results of that Olympics. Until this day, they will say Yoona is robbed, and I kind of agree. I'm gonna put this in A tier for the spice, but not gonna lie, this whole situation is just sad and disappointing. Next one is another battle between 2 big rivals, also from Russia, and this happened at the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics, and that is between Evgenia Medvedeva and Alina Zagitova. And this is a story of a battle between 2 young girls in Russia coached by the same coach. This lovely lady right here. Lovely in quotations, by the way. Her name is Atiri, and oh, she will come up again in this figure skating lore. Just you wait. Evgenia, or fans lovingly know her as Zhenya, was a fan favorite for the gold going into the Olympics. She has been winning every single title possible, Grand Prix, World Championships, just destroying everyone left and right. So she was everyone's favorite and she had a lot of fans. Alina Zagitova was a slightly younger skater and she was kind of like an up-and-coming skater. They both competed for the gold medal in the ladies event, and contrary to fan prediction, Alina actually beats out Evgenia by a very slim margin. This was just really a rivalry. The moment it became a controversy was when Evgenia actually moved to train with Brian Orser, so same guy that coaches Yuzuru Hanyu, in Canada. And in Russia, getting coached outside of your country is like a big no-no. She did something that was like, oh my god, what has she done? So this decision obviously made her old coach really angry, and she came out with multiple interviews saying stuff about Evgenia, how she was telling her to try to not let Alina compete in the Olympics so she has a better shot of winning the gold. And I think this woman literally tried to promote this narrative that these 2 girls were mortal enemies. And whether or not that is true or not, having an adult professional say those things about young girls was just like uncalled for. Nobody really has a clue what really happened in between the lines, but we all know that this coach is a toxic nightmare. So for that, I will put it in A. It is spicy, but it is absolutely a hot mess of a situation. And the next one is a perfect segue. I'm just gonna call this one Nightmares at Sambo 70. The situation I talked about before about Alina and Zhenya all happened at Sambo 70 because this coach works there and basically runs the whole scene. So after Alina and Evgenia both retired, there was the rise of what people called 3 A's. So 3 girls with names that all start with A. Got Aliana Kostanaya, Alexandra Strusova, and Anna Sherbakova. There were so many alleged stories of abuse towards these young athletes, alleged starvation of these athletes, alleged mental pitting of these athletes against each other, and they're literally all just young girls. And honestly, there's probably worse things that happen behind the scenes that we don't know about. I swear to God, this lady is literally the Abby Lee Miller of the figure skating world. And for that, I'm gonna have to put this in C. This is just sad. This is not even a controversy, this is just terrible. And then the next year in 2019, we got what some people call Tanya Harding 2.0, and that was was the incident between Mariah Bell and Unsu Lim. Mariah Bell is a US skater and Unsu Lim represents South Korea. At that time, they both trained under the same coach in California. This all went down at the World Skating Championships in Japan, where during a practice session, Bell was running her program and got really close to the boards at some point, and her blade clipped like the back of Lim's calf. From the video clip, as just an observer, it looked like Bell didn't realize she had clipped Lim, so she continued skating, leading a lot of online netizens to flame her with a lot of hate, saying she didn't even stop and apologize after hurting another skater. And he also got the worst, claiming that she was Tanya Harding 2.0 and she intentionally wanted to harm her competitor. This incident, to my knowledge, was never really formally resolved. Both sides weren't found of any wrongdoing, so nothing really happened. Originally, Lim's agency did allegedly file some sort of complaint saying there was like a bullying going on or something along the lines of that. It was just really messy. I'm gonna put this in B tier, kind of crazy, kind of wild. Honestly, there was like no real like beef between the two skaters, in my opinion. Like, it didn't look like anything was intentional and no one found any wrongdoings in an investigation. So I think it was just one of those unfortunate happenings that happen sometimes in skating. All right, we're getting real recent now with 2022's Beijing Winter Olympics, where one of the biggest doping scandals of all time has happened. You may or may not have already heard of this because this was obviously such a big news and another one of those topics that I feel like spread beyond just a figure skating bubble, and that was the case of Kamila Valieva and the doping incident. So welcome back to the world of Russian figure skating and Sambo 70, and this coach I told you will indeed reappear in our lore. We literally took a break from them for like one controversy and they're back. So for context, Atiri's new breakout star around the time 2022 Olympics rolls around was this young 16-year-old girl, I believe, or 15, came to the scene. Her name was Kamila Valieva, and she was a jumping bean. Like, the girl was whipping out quads after quads after quads. Going into the Winter Olympics, she was obviously the favorite to win the gold, and that is until she tested positive for a legal substance named trimetazidine. After literally what seemed like eons of investigation, finally in January of last year, the CAS, or the Court of Sports Arbitration, finally came out with a ruling which disqualifies her competition results backdated to 2021. This meant her performance in the Olympic team event was nullified, leading Russia to drop a place and the United States actually getting the gold medal in the team event. I would have to put this in C tier with pretty much just all the other doping cases. I think it's sad for the athletes when they are minors and they're allegedly potentially being coerced to doing stuff like this. This is not excusing doping of athletes of any age, but I think the adults here really have to take responsibility, because at this time, this girl was literally a minor, and in a lot of these systems, there's alleged talks of if you don't do certain things, you just cannot make it in the sport. Or sometimes, allegedly, athletes don't even know what they're being given or fed. And this is especially disrespectful to all the clean athletes who competed with integrity and now lost their Olympic glory moment. And this is just one of the many doping cases in the history of figure skating. I will not go into all of them once again, because then this video will literally be 2 hours long. In 2023 to 2024, the internet witnessed its biggest heartbreak. I low-key think sometimes TikTok just has like the most random obsessions. But anyways, around the 2023 timeframe, there was this young ice dance couple. Their names were Vasilisa and Valerie. Internet had like the hugest shipping obsession with them. It wasn't even just figure skating fans, it was just like random people on the internet too, which was the craziest part. Not gonna lie, it is a little bit strange that the internet is so invested in these two very young athletes, and also just the idea of shipping real people and not fictional characters is a little bit weird to me, but I can kind of see where it's coming from. The outside world, when they see figure skating and either a pair together or ice dance couple together, they just cannot fathom the fact those two people may not actually be romantically interested in each other. Of course, there are many couples who actually go on to have healthy relationships and get married and all that fun stuff. Anyways, this case was particularly messy because the internet really hyped them up with all the shipping edits of their interactions, and in those videos they just seemed like two teenagers in love and really wholesome, and or at the very least cared about each other a lot. So when the news came out that they were breaking up, not even just breaking up in a relationship, but breaking up their ice dance partnership, it literally shocked TikTok and the world and broke netizens' hearts. So the girl Vasilisa alleged that she was presented a contract by the guy that was essentially kind of an ultimatum that was saying, if you don't pay for ice time, coaching, travel costs, and all this other stuff, that I don't want to partner with you anymore. Girl was like, WTF, why would I do that? So that is the public reason why they broke up. Really, nobody really knows what happened in between the lines. I'm actually not even sure if they actually dated or not dated, because I feel like investing all my time in the dating lives of two teenagers is a little odd, but okay. But really, this is serving teenage rom-com drama. Netflix, I think you should take notes. I would have to put this in A. This is spicy, but this is just a big hot mess. Another recent one that will actually cover a lot of things, but we're going to talk about the 2024 case of Isabella Flores and her partner Yvonne. This is yet another ice dance pair that the internet kind of has an obsession with. Isabella and Yvonne are a US ice dance pair. Isabella is actually a social media creator, and she makes a lot of ice dance content that involves her and her partner. Her partner Yvonne, nicknamed Vanya, was originally from Belarus and was a skater there, and he originally competed with a different partner. However, due to the 2022 invasion of Ukraine done by Russia, both Russia and Belarus was banned from partaking in international skating competitions. So it was then that Yvonne decided to fly to the US and start a new life in Colorado, where he was training to try to find a new partner. And that's how he met Isabella Flores and got paired up. Based on public understanding, it seemed like it was actually a bit hard at first to have the Belarus Skating Union release Yvonne and have him be able to compete for the US. Eventually, they were just competing. However, ish hit the fan in October 2025, where they suddenly withdrew from competition, and at first nobody knew why. The guy in the partnership, Yvonne, was actually suspended by the US Center of Safe Sport for allegations of sexual misconduct. Throughout this whole mess, people actually also ended up finding out that Isabella was actually married legally to this guy, which we did not know before, which in hindsight probably was to help the release of him from like the Belarus Skating Union or whatever. But that raises a whole nother can of worm to talk about in figure skating, about the number of like young marriages or marriages for the purposes of doing ice dance for a certain country or pairs for a certain country would warrant a lot more discussion than what we're doing in this video. But anyways, this has to just go and see. Like, this is just sad. This is not even controversy. This is just a big problem that we all need to talk about more. And I would say, since we're on this topic, I originally didn't want to include this because it's not really a controversy. Once again, it is just illegal and terrible. And that is all of the cases of assault in figure skating. And I'm telling you, there are so many cases. I won't go into all of it today, but infamous examples of recent was when US skater Gracie Gold came out about sexual assault allegations against Brendan Carey, who eventually was actually banned by Safe Sport. We also got the recent drama involving Korean figure skater Han Lee and her involvement with a minor. Like, the list just goes on and on and on. Alright, unfortunate to end this video on such a depressing note. So I literally spent hours combing the internets and Reddit. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you want to see from me next, because your next idea may just be the next video I make. So please subscribe to help me keep the lights on this channel to make more skating content for you all. And until next time, bye guys.
For your honey sickly sweet keeps me